Sony acquires Bungie. That's the title of the video. I'm going to give my opinions on it. I know nothing about game development. I know nothing about business. I just play a lot of Destiny 2. So now getting into it, in my opinion, this seems like a weird move considering that Bungie seemed to fight for independence from Activision back in the day, and a lot of issues seem to stem from Activision partnership. Though there were also some benefits like having Vicarious Visions, another studio, helping out Bungie produce content. I think they were responsible for Warmind, which was both a blessing because new content and a curse because of the red tape, the figurative red tape that seems to prevent PvP developers from making healthy changes to the game immediately. And that's going to be the theme of today's video. Historically speaking, it didn't really matter if Bungie was partnered with Activision or independent, because ultimately, from a day-to-day play experience, there was always some ultimate flaw in Destiny 2. Whether it was the balancing, some outlier in the sandbox, or some fundamental systems change. Like, think of how we have a bad Trials of Osiris launch, that kind of thing. It's not the sandbox as much as it's just not a good game mode and economical reward system. It doesn't make any sense. And so, independent or not independent, one of those issues always rises up, and I don't think Sony is going to change this. Though, I do want to be hopeful, but something needs to change. Something fundamentally needs to change at Bungie, so when a developer spots the uber obvious DMT is strong at launch, Lorenz has wall hacks coming out, Stasis is a no-brainer 100% pick for anybody playing to win. If those kind of things could get addressed right out of the gate and have priority put into it so that we don't have to go weeks with a bad day-to-day play experience, then good. I'm glad Sony acquired them if that was the change that was needed. If not, I don't really have much of an opinion to give because I think it's going to ultimately be the same. The addition might come from not anything having to do with the game and everything having to do with multimedia. Maybe we're going to see a live-action Destiny series. But I'll save that speculation for another day. If some Bungie or Sony upper management is watching this video, hi, I'll go ahead and just state my grievances with Destiny 2, as well as why I like it, balance some of the bad with the good. So starting off with the good, obviously Bungie, Halo, a game they made. Destiny is like the spiritual successor to Halo with the wonderful gunplay that series was known for, but it also takes pages out of another MMO like Phantasy Star Online. The world building as well as a lot of the MMO elements definitely resemble that game. It's like a mix, a fusion between Halo and PSO. So no doubt that is why Destiny appeals to me at the core. Now getting more specific, the reason I keep coming back to Destiny is because the PvP is really fun. It takes some shooter elements and combines it with some space magic abilities, and your mastery of such turns the tide in a battle. If your gun skill's lacking, you have the abilities. If you don't have good matchup understanding, well then you have your gunplay. And at the core of it all, you have your teammates also doing the same thing. And when you play other players in a balanced sandbox that are actively trying to outplay each other, it is one of the best game experiences that I can possibly play. So I'm glad I started off with the good, because when I talk about the bad, it's pretty much going to be anything that takes away from the good or makes it longer to experience the good. AKA, there is a lot of restrictions in place to the overall economy of this MMO, as if we have trading, but get this, we don't have trading. The way that would be the most fun to play your character, you don't have control over. It could be hundreds of hours before you get the necessary items to make your build happen. You can't trade for it, you can't skill your way there. Hell, I don't even think there's enough time to get a perfect bottom dollar hand cannon. I know Gambit players that put thousands of hours in Gambit and they haven't stumbled across one. So it's unrealistic to say, oh, I just want something to grind for, so there should be obnoxious RNG requirements. But I'm going to save that discussion for another day. Continuing on the bad, maps and modes in PvP, as well as the matchmaking infrastructure. It doesn't make any sense. If somebody tries even 1% to change the outcome of a match, it is a miserable experience. I've already alluded to this one, but sandbox outliers. Take the Warmind expansion that Vicarious Visions was responsible for. We got an exotic called the Wormhusk Crown, which became an immediate no-brainer pick. You would get kicked off your team for not running this exotic. If you dodged with your hunter, which is already beneficial, you got a chunk of health, and it started recovery immediately. So therefore, any damage you put in a team fight was immediately reversaled. So to counter this, you also had to use a Wormhusk Crown. And Wormhusk isn't the only offender. In fact, every season, there's an offender or 2 or 3. Take this season, for instance. Deadman's Tail, a gun that I said immediately from its inception was maybe one of the strongest weapons ever put in Destiny relative to the baseline power of the sandbox. Then we have The Last Word on Controller. We have Lorentz Driver. We have Chaperone. In general, we have special weapons. They are way overtuned compared to primaries. Let's track back to the PvE side of the game for a second. I dislike the entire concept of power level because to progress in power level, I have to do the same monotonous activities I've done for 7 years, when eventually the raid ends up removing contest mode anyway, so it's kind of for naught. You up your power level to make an activity that is already pretty easy possible because now everything isn't a bullet sponge, when the system could just be you don't grind for power level, there are difficulty options, and if you succeed at the higher difficulty options, you have more direct control over what your reward is. And if you choose to take the easier route, you're going to be subject to more RNG, but it's not going to take as much effort, which I think is perfectly valid in an MMO standpoint. If they do want us to interact with old monotonous content we've already done 10,000 times, then perhaps that's where the crafting system can come in, and maybe require older weapons to be used as part of a recipe to guarantee future perks on a future weapon. Also, we have to talk about sunsetting, because although the whole concept of sunsetting was thrown in the trash, some remnants of it still remain, like the fact that we're losing the Multi-Mach SMG and the Igneous Hammer hand cannon next season, when both are a very crucial part of the meta. Sure, they might not be telling us that we're getting a direct analog replacement to those guns, but why not just let us have the original guns? Why not give us a path to acquire those, even if it's obnoxious? You could say, alright, save up 5,000 Iron Banner tokens, and you're guaranteed the exact multi-mock you want. Why is that not an option? They could repurpose the old Menagerie activity. Maybe they could use seasonal currency with Xur on some sort of quest line that lets you work towards weapons that were discontinued. I mean, we have a wall for exotics for that exact reason. But while I'm on artificial extrinsic reasons to play the game, why not talk about the elephant in the room, which is intrinsic motivation. When the activities themselves is fun and engaging, players don't care about the rewards, they'll just play it because it's fun. Look at Grandmaster Nightfalls. I do those and I don't even care about the rewards just because finding strategies that yield success is fun. Even if it's not the fastest time, sometimes succeeding with something bad is the whole point of the game. And I don't get that from anywhere else in the game, and would love to see the idea of a Grandmaster Nightfall expanded across the whole game, as well as GMs get even more intense in the future. On a final note, trying to reconnect back to the original topic of the video, Sony acquired Bungie. That brings with it a lot of money for different projects and maybe even different IPs. I think this is the part where I have to say, I might have given up hope on the best version of Destiny, so why not make different versions of Destiny? Hear me out before I say this buzzword. You're gonna immediately want to click off the video, hear out the whole idea. What if Destiny had a curated PvP experience where you weren't playing as your guardian, but rather a hero of the Destiny universe? You're playing, if you want to use the bubble, you're playing as Saint 14 or Zavala. You could play as Osiris, you could play as Akora, Cade 6, The Stranger, etc. And they're gonna have their own loadouts, the greatest hits of the Destiny universe. If you want to use Gjallarhorn, you have to use it with Lord Shaxx. And Lord Shaxx is going to have a baseline power level. That way it's easier to balance the outliers in the sandbox. For example, let's say the Chaperone is strong, right? So how do you balance out a loadout with the Chaperone? Easy answer, they get less potent abilities, less potent super, and less potent primary. In the current iteration of Destiny 2, you can't really do that unless they add an economy system like Counter-Strike or Valorant, where you have to buy into your loadout to participate into PvP. Overall, I understand that the hero concept goes against a lot of the reason some players play Destiny. They want their guardian to grow over time and their preferences to be shown, rather than looking at the game like a fighting game character select screen that I do. I mean, if you look at my Destiny item manager, you'll see a lot of different builds that could be their own heroes at that certain baseline power level. AKA, if you were trying to go flawless in Trials of Osiris today, what are your options? Destiny as a whole has a rich universe with interesting characters, fantastic weapons, and interesting set pieces. I'm sure every person watching this video, every Destiny player, plays Destiny for a different reason. They got sucked into the game for a different reason, and a spin-off title of Destiny can be the best version of Destiny to that player. Again, think of it more as a universe and less of a game, where the set piece is Sparrow Racing League, the set piece is Gambit, the set piece is the Crucible, etc. You can individually balance the game to make those activities the best they can possibly be, instead of the game at large missing elements from every other part of the game. Therefore, no matter who it is in the swing of balance, somebody's losing. So, again, to bring us back to the topic of the video, Sony acquires Bungie. I don't really have any expectations because of the Activision ups and downs in the past, as well as the Independence ups and downs in the past. But the possibility of a beneficial domino falling so that years in advance I get to play the best version of Destiny, it's a possibility. I should be excited, but I'm going to temper my expectations and just default to saying, I don't really care. So I'm going to keep playing Destiny when it's good, and stop playing Destiny when it's bad, and let the cards fall as they may. I'll see you in the next one. See you in the stream. Take care.